What's up, guys? Welcome to another Hearthstone guide. In this guide we're going to be covering the Hunter. And to help me cover the Hunter, as always, is going to be Akky and Cani. Guys, what's going on?
Not much, my man.
Yeah, I'm just hanging out with you guys and decided to talk some Hunter and see if we can't come up with some stuff. First off, as always, I'm going to be covering the Legendary and the Hero Power. Now, the Hero Power for the Hunter is very, very interesting. It does 2 damage for 2 mana, but it only will do that damage to the opponent's character. It will not do it to minions. You cannot choose where it goes. It is 2 straight to the face, and there's nothing you can do about it. The Legendary, however, is good old King Crush, and King Crush is an 8/8 dinosaur beast with charge. Okay, this guy is a mean monster. He comes out and he immediately is doing 8 damage. You do not have to wait 1 turn. You do not pass go. You are doing 8 damage. But let's get into some of the strengths and weaknesses here to cover some of the strengths of the Hunter. Let's go with Cani. Cani, what are some of the strengths that the Hunter possess?
Hunters possess a lot of control via, their secret cards. They're based around the traps and things like that. Explosive Trap, a lot of control with the board there. Snake Trap is another good one to help kind of gain momentum for yourself. They have a lot of direct damaging abilities or minion controlling abilities. Deadly Shot is one, Explosive Shot is another, Arcane Shot is another. Just a lot of damage, and not necessarily 2 minions for board control, but you can put that damage into your opponent as well. But that's probably one of the biggest strengths of the Hunter deck, is just that unbelievable amount of control. And they have, arguably the best weapon in the game with the Gladiator Longbow. It's just fantastic, and that is another huge control factor there. Hefty price of 7 mana crystals, but it has 5 damage and 2 durability, and the perk is that you are immune while attacking. So,
right.
You can deal that 5 damage to a minion, but you don't take that damage from attacking them, which is a huge benefit for controlling the board, and can really swing games if you play it correctly.
If you think about it, it's almost realistically 2 fireballs for 7. I mean, pretty close. You know what I mean? Like, you don't take. I mean, that's
that'd be the equivalent.
Literally how powerful that spell almost is. Akky, what are some of the weaknesses of the Hunter?
I think the Hero Power could be considered a weakness compared to some of the. I mean, it is very good. Don't get me wrong, if you play around it, but the fact that you can only put 2 damage into the enemy hero, whereas a lot of the other classes, Warlocks get to draw a card, Mages can ping anywhere, Priests can heal anything, that sort of thing. It's very tunnel where that 2 mana is going to go.
Right.
So you can debate whether or not that's a weakness or not, but some people consider it. I think since a lot of their cards, such as like the Starving Buzzard play and Unleash the Hounds, got nerfed.
Yeah, that got nerfed hard.
Yeah, I mean, granted it desperately needed it, but I think since then that's sort of toned down Hunters a lot, and you don't probably see them too much nowadays. Just because if you... It's hard to explain, but any sort of style that you want to play, there's other classes that just do it better.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to Hunters, so...
Yeah, and getting into that, I know that, I've seen a few Hunters recently in my ranks up, and I've actually been researching on Hunters, and I actually did an arena with a Hunter the other day just because I missed it from the good old days of the King Crush deck, back when you could, unleash the hounds with that poor bastard out and do, 25 damage in a turn if you played your card right. And it was disgusting, and then since then Hunters have just gotten nerfed. It seems like almost every patch in this beta. I mean, realistically, I don't remember a patch where they haven't been nerfed. But I do remember when the Frost Mage that deck was super popular before the nerf. The Hunter deck was actually being used for the Flare ability. You would see people building Hunter decks with Flare just to get rid of their secrets. So that was a deck being used. But nowadays, I really only see the Trap deck, and then a couple other very interesting decks that I haven't gotten a chance to really play around with a whole lot, just because my hunter cards I don't have. You know, like King Crush is a card that I would consider a staple, and to not have that card makes it very difficult for me to want to actually build a good hunter deck. But Cani, if you want, go into kind of some of the decks that you've seen, or the trap deck in particular, because I know that you've seen that quite a bit. So
I've encountered the trap deck quite a bit, and it actually kind of moved me to make my own. And it's based around a lot of control, and one of the staples to the deck is the Eaglehorn Bow, and it's a 3-cost bow with 3 damage and 2 durability. But whenever a secret is revealed by you or your opponent, you gain 1 durability on that weapon. So a lot of the secret deck is built around using your spell cards and your other minions to kind of control the board while you just repeatedly hammer the enemy with damage. Now, you know, with the 3 damage on that bow plus your 2 damage on your hero power, that's 5 damage every turn, with, you know, things like Explosive Trap popping as well for 2 damage. You have things like Kill Command that is 3 damage or 5 if you happen to have a beast on the board. It's also increased by spell damage, so your trap deck will typically have cheap spell damage cards like the Kobold Geomancer, the 2-cost 2/2 with 1 spell damage. Things like the Azure Drake for the card draw, and it's just a lot of damage all at once if you can stall it out. And it's pretty much reliant on getting those traps early so that they can be popped when you have your weapon on turn 3 or turn 4.
right.
So it's about keeping that momentum with the weapon, because you deal 5 damage every turn once you have that weapon out. So sustaining it is key. But I mean, I ran into it and it put a stop. I have a pretty nasty shaman deck that I've run, and I have a rogue deck that I've run, and the rogue deck got stopped cold by the hunter trap deck. So I couldn't not make one, and it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah, and just touching on that real quick, some of the traps, like he was saying, like Explosive Trap too, is just, especially if you're playing those Zerg decks, hunters can counter those early game, those Murloc decks or those Zerg decks with those low health minions. I mean, at round 2. I mean, literally even opening in round 1 if they wanted to. They could coin an Explosive Trap out, and you're really set for any damage that they deal to your hero. Everything on that board is clear, and it really makes those, you know, those Murloc decks almost null and void. The problem is like Candy said, is they're very, very reliant on getting those traps out early, and if you don't, you might as well concede. It's almost that bad, as Akky had touched on with the Hunter. Is it's very, very card contingent, and if you don't have that card, there's just so many other classes that can do what the Hunters can do better than the Hunter.
Yeah.
But Akky, going into this, is there anything else that you've seen with the Hunter that you really like?
Yeah, I mean, I came across a sort of very intriguing deck the other night, which actually makes a lot of sense, based around the hero power always doing 2 damage, so why not build something to complement that? And what it ended up being was there's a lot of cards that do a lot of sort of direct damage as soon as you play them. And the theme of the deck is basically to just always ping the enemy hero always with your spells and abilities, and a few cards and spells in there to sort of help with board control. So I mean, you're playing things like Arcane Shot, which costs 1 mana, but it does 2 damage anywhere you like. The Elven Archer, which you play down, it's a 1/1 minion, but it also does 1 damage anywhere that you like for 1 mana. Leper Gnome, it's always going to do 2 damage. So it's cards like that that always and somehow affect the enemy hero, so it plays off nicely with your hero power as well. So you can just keep hammering and picking away. You just got to remember to keep picking away.
Right, so just chopping wood at the enemy hero.
Basically,
really.
yeah, that's the easiest way to do it. And then use your board control spells for board control, and then make use of these other ones to sort of just keep chopping away at your enemy. So it involves a lot of charge, a lot of indirect AoE damage with like Explosive Trap and the Abomination card, for example. So very cool. It looks very nasty. To be honest, I haven't played it that much, so I can't say for sure, but it looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, and like I said, the more that we talk about this and the more I'm looking over some of these cards and some of these different builds that I was researching, it looks like it could actually have some potential to be at least fun. Whether it be good in ranked or not is a completely different story, but the ability just to have some fun with it is definitely there. So
yeah, just always doing damage to the enemy hero. That looks, I mean, it's pretty fun.
Yep.
But yeah, guys, that's pretty much the hunter in the nutshell. Like we said, not one of the most prevalent classes right now in the Hearthstone beta, and I would actually probably expect a buff coming to hunters a little bit. I don't know where, because I haven't had enough time to really dive into the class to say, okay, it just needs this. But I think the Starving Buzzard being a 2/1 really hurt it, because you can, like we were talking about with the other hero powers, 1 damage is pretty easy to come by, and that card is, and a lot of their cards are reliant on your cards being alive. And same thing with, you know, the Animal Companion being a random beast. Think of it as a more expensive shaman totem with different effects.
Yeah, but it being random is kind of what makes it not so appealing. You know, you could get a good card, but you can also get not so good. Right.
So it really depends on how you're building there. They've pretty much all but broken the Beast Rush deck, which was what made it so overpowered. It was as they've redone Unleash the Hounds.
Yeah.
But you know, there is still some flavor cards, and I really think that hunters are maybe 1 or 2 buffs from being really prevalent again, and very at least advantageous for people to try out, because I know a lot of people really enjoy the class. I know when the first beta, when I first got into the beta, it was all I played. It was, you know, the most amazing class. I loved every minute of it. And like I said, they've just kind of continually nerfed it little by little to now I think it's probably in tune for a buff soon. But we'll keep track of that as the beta moves forward into open and hopefully into release soon. Is there anything else going on, guys, that you want to talk about with the hunter before we go?
Not that I can think of. No.
Not really, no.
All right. Well, in that case, guys, you know the deal. We will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching, and peace.